Welcome to Mindset U. Thank you for joining us. This is Moody Mo over here. I'm not going to call you what you like to be called.
King Mo.
And I'm Robot Rances. So today we're going to be talking about the mindset topics. One of the topics that we like to really teach about is the concept of hope, which is something very abstract, but we found that there's a lot of internal science behind it that gets you to taking action and moving forward in your life. So we're going to do our best to dive into this, make it somewhat interesting, since we don't have Jay here to entertain you with jokes. All right, so I got a question for you. Let's start off by, what does hope mean to you? What is the concept of hope?
I was thinking about that because I'm not sure if I'm aware of when I actually use hope. It's been, I don't know if that my mindset now is so much in the range of optimism or stoicism of just things just happen that I can't realize when I'm actually using hope or not anymore. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because,
all right, so
yeah, go.
So with that, let's talk about that, over the years, because you're identifying a clear change there. So how has your view on hope changed over the years?
Well, I think that previously I think I'd confuse hope with wishing, right? And I've understood that wishing is something that you feel that you don't really have control over. Right? It's I wish these things would happen, and that you have no influence over those things. When I think about hope, when I hope for something, there is empowerment in that, in the sense that I do have influence or control. So when I do think about something that I desire or that I hope for, or when I'm in this really bad situation, right? And I'm what am I looking at? I'm always looking at how I can influence something. And that's kind of what I've anchored myself in terms of hope. It's okay, I'm in this situation right now. What am I capable of doing? What am I in control of right now?
Yeah.
Okay, I can take these actions right now and create some type of change. And it could be better or it could be worse. And it's but the whole idea is that my hope is anchored in the ability to do something, to take an action.
Yeah, I think for me is similar, but in the idea of using awareness to recognize when there's hope, when you can exercise hope. So I've been in situations most recently the whole thing with the accident. What that has put me in a space of my brain and the way I think and everything has been impacted drastically, and that has been something that has challenged how I see myself as a person, how I see myself as my identity. And there's been, seeing doctors and stuff like that. A lot of them are oh, well, this could be you for the rest of your life type of thing. Very hopeless perspectives, which I notice in those spikes of hopelessness that I really start clamoring for some sort of hope, which is generally in the same context of where you're talking about. Generally, I'll be oh yeah, I'm going to prove you wrong. You're going to see what I'm going to do. I go into that kind of combative mindset attitude. But recently I saw a psychologist who specializes in concussions, and first of all, she understood me. She was able to describe to me the things that I was feeling before I even spoke them, which was amazing. So I felt seen in that. And then when she gave me her prognosis, it was you got 2 years. You're very early on this. And we're going to get you better. There's a lot of, techniques that we're going to use and so on and so forth. I felt this rush of, I would say, hope of like, wow, this is the first time I'm feeling like this. Whereas like, no, I don't have to go against the grain and prove. It was like, no, I actually feel very hopeful with also help and my views on the future of getting better and being able to completely be resolved. And that was like for me a big kind of awakening. I was like, oh, this is like raw hope.
Have you started working with her yet?
No, not yet. I actually called the office the other day because I haven't heard back since I saw them in the beginning of last month.
So what was the holdup? What was the holdup on
insurance?
The works? Oh, insurance issues.
They're waiting for insurance to approve it so they can book me.
Oh,
so
wow.
it was insurance. And
crazy.
I'm kind of like, yo, I'll pay you cash, man. I don't care. Can we get
insurance
started?
Is a scam, bro. I'm so mad because I have insurance now, and to go see my therapist, I can't even fucking use it. I could use it, but it won't really do anything. Like, it's like I use it till I get to a $6,000 deductible, and then they start paying, and I'm like, what the hell? Like, I got to pay $6,000 first. I'm like, that makes no sense. I was like, why would I? Like, no. I'm like, fuck that. I'll just pay cash. Like, whatever. You know, I was like, this is stupid.
Well, I mean, just pay till you get to $600.
6,000.
Oh, 6,000. Oh, but then that means that the plan you chose, no?
Yeah, it means something with the plan. It's like a high deductible. I know, but like, that's stupid. Like, mental health insurance, like mental health, you should just be included. Like, you want an employee to function better at work. Like, you need their brain. Like, why wouldn't you just pay for that?
Word.
Anyways, yeah, it's so stupid. Insurance is hopeless.
Well, it's funny because insurance is kind of designed to give hope, right? Of like, these things will be inaccessible without insurance, and it's supposed to be like, oh, now I have insurance, I can achieve these things, I can get this help that I need.
Yeah, and then you can't. But that's why I say, like, to me, hope is now anchored in. It's very different than how I used to think about it, where it would be more external before, waiting for something else outside of me to happen, versus it's like, oh, I have control and influence over these things. And then sometimes is that you don't have control or influence over things, and that too gives you hope because there's nothing you could really do. It's kind of, you got to just sit in it for a little while.
Can you think of any moments that like you saw that shift, like where you specifically experience like, oh, I need hope here?
I would say that the last time I felt that way was probably when we were in the center and we were trying to figure out like how we're going to keep everything afloat with the team, and we didn't have money, and I was trying to figure out how I'm going to eat, and like that was probably the last moment that I can remember, like, putting hope in something, right? Like, other than myself, like hope in you, hope in the team, hope in like the mission and what we were trying to achieve. Like, that was the last time that I could really, I felt like myself attaching to that.
Yeah. Okay. And since then, what? It's just been like floating along, or like you said?
I mean, to be honest, man, I've been thinking about
people.
It's not that. It's not like fuck having hope on other people. Like, I always believe in other people. Like, that's a given. I just think it's more so like, if there's a situation that I'm in, if there's a problem that needs to be solved, it's that I already know that I'm capable of solving the problem. And there's this like other thing that there's a belief that that I gravitate towards a lot, or I'm anchored to, is that I will always figure it out somehow, some way. Like, my whole life, I've like have so many cookies now that's just like everything that I've ever wanted, I was able to achieve. And it was just, I just didn't know when. I was trying to control the timing of it. And that was the big thing. It was like controlling timing of the outcome that I desired, whether it be good or bad, that was the thing that I would get frustrated with. It's like, it's not happening now.
Yeah.
And when I let go of that idea of that something's not happening now in the place, in this discomfort that I'm in, or this desire that I currently want, then I would get frustrated and I'd feel like I'm losing hope.
Yeah.
But there was always this thing, like now it's just like, you know what? I've always achieved everything I've done. I've always said what I was going to do. I'd get it, say like 90% of the things. It's like, I'm going to figure it out. If I really want it, I'm going to figure it out. Like somewhere down the line, it's going to come together and I'm going to get it. And that's kind of what I anchor myself to now.
So you're saying that your strategy is applying gratitude and cookies with your past, and that's how you maintain hope.
Yeah. I just think that, like, I don't know. I almost think hope is something that if you're talking about personal development and like understanding identity and ego and all of that, I'd say hope is a starting point.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think that's a like the starting line of personal development. And I just, maybe it's hope formed in a modified version of, I don't necessarily align with the definition of hope that we have for a renewed mindset or something, right? Which is this kind of, this thing that we strive for when we're in the shit moment. I don't necessarily do that anymore, is because the personal development journey that I've been on has been anchored and like defined on what I can control, and understanding that the things I can't control are just a part of that process.
Yeah.
And that's really it. There's nothing we can really do about it, and that's fine. And that's okay. Like, I'm adaptable in that way.
I think that itself is hope. That is the same hope, because it's like what you're saying is that you're hopeful in yourself figuring it out. You're hopeful that you're the influential part. You're the part that's going to get yourself out of whatever situation, as opposed to like it being external, which is like, oh, I hope that someone comes to save me, or these opportunities land on my lap. Your hope has shifted internally, right? Which to me is,
But would that be considered hope still? I mean, in my definition, no.
So I think a few months back I would have agreed with you, but now, given what I've been through with my head, that challenge, like I said before, my identity of myself, which it's like I always bet on me, right? But now when it's like, yo, my brain is not, basically me is not me anymore, that kind of set everything and destroyed everything, every foundation of, it's like, wait, what do I hope on then? If I don't have me anymore, I don't have the things that I see as my skill sets anymore. Now that puts me in a position of losing hope, which was like, just the thought of losing that hope made me realize that it was hope anchored in something, which is me in this case, in my way of thinking, my way of problem solving, my way of looking for solutions. That was where the hope was. Does that make sense?
What was the hope like? I mean, you said that there was a fight that came out of you when doctors would tell you no. So I guess that was like the beginning of hope. But in reality, or what really kind of gave you confidence in that reality or vision, was this psychologist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what I'm saying though is that in that fight, like that initial reactive fight of like, hey, doctors are telling me that basically it's over for me, there is like, oh, you know, my habit is like react to that. Okay, I'll prove you wrong. This is what I've always done. Everyone has always discounted me. Everyone has always said that this is my expectation, and this is how I react. And then when I look in my inventory box of how I've always battled this, is like, yo, my inventory is empty, because a lot of the things that provided those skill sets were from my brain, was from my ability to remember, my ability to imagine complex things. And I'm not able to hold on to those things. So now my toolbox is empty. So it's habitual to have that reaction. But then when I look in the toolbox, I don't have the tools to be able to do those things that I've done all my life, which was like, oh, the tools were me. And now they were shaken out of my brain. So I don't know what to hold on to hope for, on where normally it would be like, yes, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to start this and I'm going to this skill. But I don't have those things. Like I'm starting from scratch. Like just to give you this context of meditation, right? I meditate for years and I'm able to sit down, focus, whatever. Something that I recently realized is that I can't meditate the way I used to. Like that's been a big frustration for me, where I sit down to meditate and I'm not able to do any of the things that I would do internally to get myself like focused and center with myself and so on and so forth. So what I had to realize was that's a reality. So now I'm starting from scratch, and that was hard. Like I have to start meditating for 3 minutes at a time, because that's as long as I can hold, which is crazy. But realizing that and then accepting that and then doing it, it's like, okay, all right, I got to start with baby steps, which means that the tools that I had before, or this massive focus where I can come up with these amazing concepts and ideas through a meditative state, is no longer even accessible to me, because I'm just learning how to ride a bike again.
So then your hope came from the psychologist.
Yeah, in that case. But what I'm saying to you is like that hope, like for me, I would have agreed with you years ago because I had hope in myself, right? So I wasn't this external looking for hope until myself was challenged, where I no longer could hold on to myself either. Mm-hmm. So in the definition that you were saying, like I no longer align with like that thing that you grab onto. It's like, but this made me realize it is something that I grab onto, which is my identity in a sense. And once my identity was almost taken away, I was like, oh, I don't have this thing to grab onto, which I was so secure in. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But that's where I think hope, that's where I feel hope is more of an external thing. Like when I think about hope, it's something that exists outside of us. It almost like and I think, I'm sure many people would agree, but it almost aligns with faith, like having faith in something. Mm-hmm. Like a lot of people have faith in God, and there's this like kind of anchor to something that's bigger than us, right? That will get us through this thing. And I believe that hope kind of aligns in that way, where your hope, the psychologist is that like anchor for hope in that moment. It's like, all right, I have someone with me working on solutions, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe it's a new job. Maybe it's the paycheck coming in. Maybe it's a plan that you came up with a friend. Like there's so many different things, but I always feel that it's external. I think that we use hope. Like I think it's there, right? Like that there's always there. But as you move down the personal development path and you get further away from that starting point, and you've had these building blocks and cookies of just, wins and belief in yourself, that tool or that like lever for hope is used less often, right? Which can be both negative and positive in the sense that when you don't use that, right, you don't reach out to friends, you believe in yourself so much that you don't look at solutions outside of you, right? But at the same time, it can be beneficial because it continues to build this idea of how sure and confident you are in yourself.
Yeah.
In those moments.
Just to go back to that hope and faith thing, I think there is a distinct reality between those, which is like what you said right now. Like hope has a lot to do with action and yourself in action, right? I think that's to me, that's the transition between faith and hope. It's like
I can't necessarily agree with that 100%.
Okay.
Because
But let
people
me
who
explain it first, because
yeah, go
I
ahead.
know you're picking up from, we've had these discussions in the past, but the audience may not know what the hell we're talking about. So basically, hope is, the way I see it, is hope is something that, like we talked about moments ago, where I can be hopeful that I can find a solution for the future. I'm in a situation, and I'm going to find how to get myself out of this situation and find a better place, a better life, a better whatever it is. Where faith is, in my opinion, very external, in the sense of like, I have faith that something outside of me is going to fix this, is going to get me out of this, is going to resolve this for me. And to me, that's the differentiator of faith. So like we say if I were to say a sentence of, I'm hopeful to get this job, or I have faith I'm gonna get this job, there's a different weight that comes in, where faith is like this external belief in, I want to say it, magic is going to make it happen. Where hope and hope can be not tied to anything actually happening, where that's the disempowering of version of hope, which you mentioned was wishing, right? But I think real hope is when you're actionable in what you're doing to achieve that thing.
You can also make the argument for faith too, that it can be actionable, right? In the sense that people believe in something larger than them. They see a sign, they see some type of something that comes up in their life, and they take an action on that. Mm-hmm. And they believe that it was faith. They believe that it was God. So I don't, that's why I say I don't necessarily agree with that, because even hope in itself is a belief in this version of you that you can't necessarily see, nor do you know if it exists.
Let's talk about that, because to me, you kind of intertwined those two definitions when you said that just now, with like in faith, like what would be the action that someone would take? I have faith that I'm gonna get this job.
They go to church, they pray, which is a form of meditation, right? Mm-hmm. So it's a form of meditation. So they're just envisioning and doing the same things that we would do and meditate. Like you said.
No, but that's where I disagree, because it's like, if someone told me, hey, I'm hopeful I'm getting this job, so I'm gonna go home and meditate on it, to me, that's magic. You're trying to create magic. If you're hopeful you're gonna get this job, and then you're sending out emails to your contacts thanking them, you're doing something actionable.
But who's to say that the person that has faith doesn't do that either? Like they're doing it too.
But that's what I'm saying. It's not just to use them. Oh, which one you're choosing, faith or hope? To me, if the person that's doing those actions, then they're using hope along with their faith. So to me, that's the line of definition between the two. You can't just interchange them, because then you just have two interchangeable words.
You're attaching the word action to hope. It doesn't. I don't think it necessarily has that. If we look at the definition of hope, it has nothing to do with action. It can be synonymous to faith. So like, yes, for us,
do you have the definition?
Yeah, I'll pull it up now.
Yes.
Hope, a feeling of expectation, a desire for a certain thing to happen, a feeling of trust, wanting something to happen or be the case. So, yes, for us, action is what makes the thing happen, right? Like, so to me, hope is that seed that's very similar to faith, right? Except like hope doesn't, I think when you think about hope, you don't put it into this being or character.
So the definition of faith: complete trust or confidence in someone or something. Strong belief in God or in doctrine. So it's really tied to external.
External thing. But even having hope or trust that something will happen, right, is external. Right? It's not within. It's something that exists. So to me, they align. I don't think they're exactly the same. I think they're parallel to each other. I think the next step to make either faith or hope into something that's tangible in your life is action, right? Like, and even when you think about like our matrix or rubric of growth, right? One of the things is, right, understanding and vision, right? Which you can correlate to hope, right? What's the vision? What does your life look like? And then there's action. And part of that action is understanding yourself and how your emotions play an influence in that, right? So I don't think that hope is directly attached. Like, you can't combine hope and action together. I think it's the thing that happens after. And I think people who are religious, yes, they have hope in a way, but I think it leans more towards faith. It's something that they feel that they don't necessarily have control in, right? That somebody else or something else is dictating that control or that path for them. I think where hope is where you have power and envision what your life is actually going to look like, versus faith, where it's somebody is deciding for me what that life is. I think that, to me, is the biggest difference.
Bring in wish into that whole thing, because you got hope, you got faith, but also then how's wish?
Wish, I don't believe that you even believe in it.
Okay.
Right? Like, I wish is like, God is not going to give me that. I'm not going to get it. I just wish, right? Like, you want some fucking genie to pop out the bottle. Like, that's what I think is like wish. It's like, you don't even truly believe that it can happen. But when you have faith, right, and you believe in God, you really truly, like, people who are really religious, right? You got, like, I respect them because they really believe, right? And they believe that the thing will happen. Just like when I hope for something, I'm like, nah, it's going to happen, right? I can say, nah, you know what? God's going to give it to me, right? For me, at that point, like, what's the difference?
For me, this is, so I sent you this the other day about the rats in the water, right? So it was like they had done an experiment with rats, putting them in water, and like rats can't get out. It's just like a bucket of water, and the rats swim for about 20 minutes, and then they start to fatigue so much that they start to fall to the bottom and drown. And what they did was they took the rats out the moment that they were starting to sink. They took them out and they let them rest for about 10 minutes. And when they did that, remember, they're fatigued, they're tired from just almost drowning. They put them back in the water after those 10 minutes. And how long do you think the rats would survive in the water? The mice would survive. They lasted upwards of 60 hours. And the whole concept is like, that's the definition of hope, right? You're going to keep working towards something because you have the hope of it resolving. So that, to me, that kind of explains the actionable part of it, rather than just waiting. There's an actionable part bred in hope.
Yeah. And it's based on data. So someone who has faith, right, can have an experience that gives them that same hope, right? That same faith, right? For all they know, the rat is some magical hand came into the water and took them out, right? And then put them back in, right? Like, how do we know that the rat didn't look at us as a god and says, yes, God is going to take me out and it's going to save me one day. Like, this mystical creature with 5 fingers is going to come into this cup and pull me out, right? Like, we do the same thing.
Yeah, so, but you said it in the words in how you described it. You said if they have an experience, right, that put hope in their faith. And that's the key factor. It's like there is an experience there that created hope
Yeah, but
whether
they
it's
didn't
tied
decide
to
that.
also faith or
They didn't decide. They
no,
didn't create that
but the
experience.
action, it doesn't matter but that's what I'm saying. The actionable part is holding on to the process. That's the action.
Because something happened to them that was outside of them.
Exactly. But
Yeah, so how's that different from
action
faith?
happening, that thing that happened outside of them is not the hope part. That's not intertwined with the hope.
No,
the holding on is the hope part.
Yes, I agree. The action, but there was a catalyst to that.
Mm-hmm. But we're not talking about the catalyst of what creates hope.
But then how do you gain hope? How do you create it?
But that's the thing. Like you said in your story, you have all these experiences, these cookies.
Yeah.
That you hold on to. That's how hope is created. Yeah, there's some crumbs, there's some cookie crumbs around to then hold on to and now work harder towards. But to me, faith is not the same as that. Faith can connect to hope, but I think there's still a difference. So I just pulled it up. Faith is confidence or trust in something or someone, not based on proof, belief in things unseen. Hope is optimism, attitude based on expectation or desire. I think that's a pretty solid.
I first of all, I want to make it for the record that I never said they were the same thing. I said that they are closely aligned and parallel to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Hope and faith.
Yeah.
Right. So that's number one. Number two is that I don't necessarily believe that action is tied to either of those things. I think you can have hope, right, and not do shit. I think you can have faith and not do shit and nothing change. I think either of those things can exist, right? I also think that you can have wish, not do shit and nothing change. You can wish and do something and not get what you want, but you still somehow get there, right? Like in terms of like you wish something happened and then you just got lucky, right? Like I think it's random. What I do believe that is constant in order to create any type of change, regardless of hope, faith, wish, whatever it is action. So I agree with you there.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I think that when it comes to faith, I think it's still the same catalyst. It can have the same weight as hope. Mm-hmm. I think that people who truly believe, right, can align and believe in something external that's bigger than them and take an action.
Mm-hmm.
I think where hope differs is that it's not in that external, it's not in that character or being or thing, whatever it is that exists. That's like when we think about faith, we're attaching it to the story of religion,
mm-hmm.
right? And like even in our renewed mindset, there is a story of like the hero's journey where we think about ourselves and you can even argue that we can be God in that story, right? Like we're that version of that God too, right?
What do you mean? You lost me now.
So like in the hero's journey, right? The person that you believe in, the thing that you believe in the most is this version of yourself that's yet to exist, right? You can argue that that's God. This superior version of you
mm-hmm.
is this God version of you, the best version of you. You can anchor yourself in that belief too. And there are people that do that. There are people that mm-hmm. believe that they are God because they are a part of God, and that's part of their religion.
Mm-hmm.
Are you confused still?
No, I just feel like it's a bit of a reach there.
I'm just stating different things. I'm mm-hmm. trying to get to my point. In the hero's journey, right? There is a story that we all go through, that we create. The story is what drives us.
Mm-hmm.
For people who have faith, the story is God's story. It's Jesus' story. Mm-hmm. It's Muhammad. It's Allah. It's whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That's the story that drives them forward, right? For the difference that I believe between hope and faith is that the story is different. In faith, it's a story that has nothing to do with us, the individual, right? The ego, the identity of who we are. In hope, the main character is the individual. That's it. Either one, the next step to move forward in either one, whether you use faith or hope, is action. Neither can exist without action.
But that's the part where I disagree with, because you can continue, like you said, neither one can exist without action, right? Is that what you said? So like they'll continue to exist.
I mean, they'll exist, but like you won't create change.
Exactly. But what I was saying before is more so in terms of like the differences. Now, what I agree with you is like, yes, faith can be a catalyst for someone, can be the kind of center kind of driver, right? But what I was trying to say before is that there is a difference. I don't think they're as interchangeable as you mentioned them. There is a difference when you dive into those words, hope and faith. And like you just said right now, you just kind of define the differences in the external and internal, which is what we kind of started with. So with that being said, the idea then boils down to a belief in finding a solution, an outcome for yourself in whatever situation you're in.
But before you go, I don't necessarily believe that one's internal, one's external. I believe they're both external in my definition, like in the way that I view it. Because to me, hope can be external too. It's just more tangible in things that actually exist. Like in your story, the psychologist is that sense of hope. Right. It's an external thing outside of you.
No, because.
Well, no, I'm not saying you. First of all, you can't dismiss my belief, because first of all, I said it's my belief.
No, I'm dismissing your conclusion of my story.
Well, what I'm saying
you're saying
is
that the psychologist is the hope. It's not the psychologist. The psychologist gave me hope by showing me a plan. So she's not hope. She's not. I'm not saying that's not hope. I'm saying that she's not the hope. She's not the God that I have faith in.
Well, all right. You're taking it a little out of context, my man.
You think so? I think it's what
Absolutely.
you said. You said my hope was in the psychologist.
Well, that's what you said in your story. You said that your toolbox was gone, right? And then I said, so when you saw the psychologist, then you had hope. You said yes.
Yes, that's
so then
accurate.
How's the psychologist not hope?
Because you look at the two lines that you're putting together there. You just said, when I saw the psychologist, I had hope. That doesn't mean that the psychologist is hope. That means that I got hope from the psychologist.
How is that not the same thing?
Because if I have an iPad in my hand and I give you an iPad, you would say, I got an iPad from Rances. You wouldn't say Rances is the iPad.
Oh my God.
What do you mean? Oh my God.
No, you're going into semantics, bro.
I'm not going into semantics. I'm saying that she gave me hope in a solution, in a plan that now there's things that I can do.
She was the catalyst for hope.
Yes, she was the catalyst for hope.
Okay. All right, fine. Gosh. So she's not hope. She's not the definition of hope. She was the catalyst for hope. Exactly. She was your hope.
No. Why you keep trying to make her the hope? She's not my God.
She was the thing that gave you hope. I never said that she's your God. Like, why are you going? You understand what I'm trying to say? You're going. No,
I don't. I'm
being anal about it.
No, I'm not being. No. Now you see. You think that I'm going to just be difficult here. I'm saying that there's a big difference in her being the hope and her giving me hope.
Okay. So go ahead.
So with her giving me hope is like, as a coach, the same thing that we do for people. We don't have, we don't come in and save people from their suffering and so on and so forth. We give them tools on how to. So those tools are actions that they can take, which is empowering the self.
Yeah, which
And
is
with the
external.
self being empowered, now they have hope. But
Which is okay.
If to me that would be different with, okay, I have hope that if you're my client, I have hope that Rances is going to solve all my problems. To me, that's faith. That's like external entirely. That's like you're not pulling any levers. You're just sitting waiting.
Mm-hmm. But can't the psychologist give you all the tools and you can still sit there, wait and wait?
Yeah, but then that wouldn't be the same thing. Then now be me wishing to be better.
So then it's the actionable step.
Yeah, exactly.
So like, I'm not disagreeing with you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just separating the idea of action and hope.
Mm-hmm. But that's what I'm saying. Like there's an idea of hope, but with hope, there's always like this line that goes to action.
And you can say the same thing for faith. You can say the same thing for faith.
I don't see it. How?
Because somebody can see a story, can read the story of God or whatever it is. They can go to church. They can talk to the priest. They can do all these things.
Mm-hmm.
And they can see a line of action. There can be an action that's taken from those experiences, just like your rat story. Now, what I will argue is that with hope, right, because it's in a thing that's more tangible and a thing that exists, right, that it's not necessarily this spiritual aspect that we don't see and cannot necessarily physiologically experience, right? It becomes harder to take an action off of those things. I would say it's not impossible, it just becomes more difficult. So the probability of action decreases. Whereas if I go see a therapist or I go see a psychologist for an issue that I'm having, and they came up with a plan, and they said, if you do these things, you're going to get better. That actually creates a harder line for action, right? Like it creates a clearer path for action. So I will agree that hope creates a clearer path for action. But I think that neither is synonymous. You can't attach action to either of them.
Mm-hmm.
I would say you get a higher probability of action with hope, but it's still possible with faith.
Yeah. So the last bit of that, which is with how you describe the action with the faith, like you can go to the church and so on and so forth. There's a difference between like that action. So it's like going back to the word wish. It was like, oh, you got to make a wish to make this come true. So you have to go to a pond and flip a penny. Like, yeah, that's an action. But it's the tie of that action on the solution versus that someone or something else is going to create that solution. So I take this action down this path, and now someone else is going to make this reality for me, or something else is going to make this reality. That's that outside of me part versus I'm working towards this solution. That's, to me, that's the difference.
What you're talking about is consciously doing that. But I can argue the same thing when I unconsciously took action without knowing what triggered it. So, for example, I believe a lot of the things that I've wanted in my life happened because I kept thinking about it. Like I kept envisioning it. I didn't necessarily take a conscious action towards that thing and say like, I'm going to do this, and this is the next step, and this is my next sequence in how I'm going to achieve this thing or get out of this situation. But because I had a vision and I had faith or hope or whichever one you want to use, I kept seeing that picture of whatever my life looked like. And I took some type of action, whether I was conscious of it or not. And it happened. One of the stories that I had was like an apartment, right? I was sleeping on the floor of VidaProject. And there was a time, I was starting to make money. And I was like, all right, it's time to have my own place. So The action was, I'm going to start looking at something. I didn't think that I was going to get anything, nor did I have the money to an affordable apartment at that time. I didn't even have a plan. All I did was, I'm going to go and I'm going to start looking at apartments. Why? Because this creates a vision or an idea of myself that makes it more tangible, more real, right? So that was maybe the action I took. I would go search the apartments. A lot of the people call this like, what do you call that? The book, The Secret, that everybody talks about, manifesting, right? This idea of manifesting. But when you constantly look for something, right, you're going to take these little like micro actions that lead you to that goal. I subconsciously did that. Like I would just go, I'm bored, I'm searching something, right? I didn't create this strategic plan to get that apartment. It was just like, I wanted one. I went on the internet. I would see one here. I would see one there, just play around. I didn't think I was going to get it, but then one day it did. Somebody who has faith can go through that experience too.
But again, that's where like I disagree with you. When you say you did those actions, you didn't have you didn't set out with a plan to do those. No. But those actions, regardless if there was a plan or not, those actions were a path towards your goal.
Yes.
Okay. So like that's the difference. If my actions are a path that has nothing to do with my goal, and then my goal happens, it's like if you have a broken what's it called? North, south
compass.
A compass. Thank you. If you have a broken compass and you're like, I'm heading north, and you're looking at that compass and you go north for 3 hours, and then you realize the compass is broken, you've been going south, that didn't get you closer to your goal because you believed in it. So what I'm saying is with the actions that don't correlate. So
well, I don't necessarily agree with that either.
Let me finish. Because I let you finish. So in the context of like what you're saying, faith, going to church and so on and so forth and all of this, if you're going down that path, that's the path that you're going to. That's not leading to the goal, to the thing that you have faith in happening.
You can't say that, man. First of all, that's very dismissive of people who are religious. So you can have a broken compass.
I don't care about being dismissive or not. What I'm trying to do right now is I'm not babying anyone's beliefs right now. What we're trying to do is define the difference between hope and faith.
Yeah, and I'm saying that they're aligned. I'm saying they're parallel to each other. And you're trying to argue this huge difference from them, but we're technically saying the same thing. And when Jay listens to this, he's going to be like, you guys are saying the same thing, just slightly different, right?
So when you say that, to me, it just shows me that you're not understanding what I'm saying, and you're just assuming I'm saying what you're saying.
Okay, so first of all, we're saying very similar things. What I think is like, so you gave the story of the compass, right? Mm-hmm. And you're saying it got you nowhere closer to your goal if you went 3 miles in the wrong direction. Mm-hmm. But depending on that experience of you going from starting point 0 to mile 3 in the wrong direction, there's so many things that you could have learned in those 3 miles that when you figure out that you're going in the wrong direction, you start going in the right direction, you have all of that experience to get you through there. Who's to say that when you believe in faith, that you can't have that experience? I believe that the difference between, but you're saying you're getting nowhere near to your goal. I don't believe that's true. No. You said that if you're going 3 miles in the wrong direction, you're nowhere near closer to your goal.
Yes, correct.
I don't believe that's true. In the standard of distance, yes. If you were measuring in distance, you can say yes. But who's to say that all that experience, all the mistakes that I've made on those 3 miles, does it get me to my goal even faster? All the things that I've learned, all the shit that I went through.
So
who's to say that if I believe in God, right?
Can I identify the difference in what you're understanding and what I believe you're understanding versus what I'm saying?
Okay.
I believe that you're understanding that when I say faith, and I say the action of like going to church and everything like that is going to hurt you and not get you towards your goal and so on and so forth.
No, I don't believe you're saying that.
No?
I believe that what I believe you're saying is that you going to church or you having faith doesn't get you to your goal.
So when you have faith in that you're getting to your goal, it creates an opportunity to build hope, which then gets you towards your goal.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. But faith alone, based off of the definition of it, it's external. It's not going to give you a path towards your goal.
That's where I disagree. I don't necessarily believe that faith will not give you a path. I think it can. I just think the probability is less. There's a lower probability because it's very similar to wish, because faith can go in either direction. Faith can go towards hope, where you take more tangible actions, right, with more logical and like evidence-based solutions, right? Or you can go then lean towards wish, which is like, I'm just going to wait for this thing to happen to me, right? Because you believe in something, right? It can happen with hope too, which then gets you to lean towards wish, right? You can hope for something to happen. Someone says, I hope this happens. And they could really be saying, I wish this happens. So to me, hope, neither of the words are directly correlated with action. Action is something that stands alone with itself. You can have no hope, no faith, no wish, and still take action. You can just be a fucking machine and take action all the time, right? So I think it's possible with faith. I just think the probability of doing something is lower because you believe that something is going to take care of this thing for you, which is where I agree with you. I just don't think it's impossible. I think that it can happen. I think the person or the individual who has faith has to be more self-aware and understand that they also have control and they also have the ability to take an action. The person who has who has hope, typically has a little bit more awareness with what they're capable of doing. That's how I see it.
So like when we define hope, right, is like the belief that things will be better in a sense, right? That's a simple belief. So in this context, you're saying the faith that will add that external part, the faith that something or someone will make things better.
Yeah.
But the whole thing's better is the same.
The same thing. Yep.
Okay, I can agree with that. And in what so to summarize the whole thing, so what you're saying is that basically it doesn't matter where that you end up or where you start from, but as long as you end up with that things better, end of the sentence.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. What I really think matters is what you do after that. Like, okay, you have faith, you believe in this thing that's going to make things better for you, or you believe that things are going to get better for you. What are you going to do about it? Like, even if I believed in God, right? Like, so first of all, for the audience, I'm not an atheist. I believe that there is something bigger than us. I just don't know what it is. I don't necessarily believe it's a white man with a beard, right? Like, that's what I don't believe.
Jay, link our story, our podcast about religion.
Yeah, I don't believe that, but I do believe that there is something bigger than us, right? So, but even if, let's say that God, in the way that most Christians in my family envisions him and Jesus, right? I don't believe that God is saying, you know what, Moses, this is what you're going to do. Right? Like, I think if I were God, that would be a very boring story or very, very boring thing to watch. I already know what Moses is going to do. That's stupid. Like, that's no fun. Right? What I would want is to empower somebody and give them the tools and the skill sets to be able to see what they can do. And that to me is that's way more interesting. If I were to think about how I view people as God, right? So to me, both faith and hope means that you have to do something with it, whether it is a sign from God or whether it's somebody in your life that's giving you a tool or information, you have to do something with it. And that is what creates change. It doesn't matter. Yeah. Neither of them matter. You can believe in God. You can believe in whatever the hell you want to believe in. What matters is what you do with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. So to summarize, hope and faith, the difference is internal. Hope is internal. Belief in yourself. Faith is the external belief in someone or something. They both guide you towards wishing for a better life, which is more than wishing because you believe in its reality. And that's the starting line of actually making adjustments and creating that better life, is just believing in that action, in that possibility, which then leads you to take action to start creating that better life.
I mean, if you just want to summarize, just watch Ted Lasso.
That's not a summary. That's like three seasons or 2 seasons.
No, but like the first, I think it's like the second episode where he puts the word believe on the wall. And that's really it. Like, it doesn't matter where it comes from. Just have to fucking believe. All right, guys. That concludes episode blank. Thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget to like, subscribe on any podcast channel, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, whatever it is that you listen to. And don't forget to visit VidaProject.com. We talk about a lot about these things, these concepts on our website. You can download the rubric of growth. It's our matrix on how we measure growth, and hope is definitely in there. So if you guys want to give us feedback on that, please don't hesitate. Thank you again for tuning in.
Comment, let us know your thoughts on this discussion.
Yeah, for sure.
Don't just message us privately.
All right, guys.
Peace.
Peace.